No Giannis for the Bucks, and boy, did they struggle without him. How much can you take from a loss like this? We'll discuss on today's episode of Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis, an NBA analyst with the Locked On Network and co-host of the Technical Foul podcast. Joining me is Frank Madden, longtime voice of the pod and founder of brewhoop.com. We appreciate you for tuning in and making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. The Bucks dropped to 7-5 after a 111-100 loss to the Charlotte Hornets in Charlotte. We got some things to talk about tonight. Like, is this one of the worst losses of the season for the Bucks in a game that ends with garbage time? What were the bright spots and what needs to change on Friday when these two teams play again in a game with a little bit higher stakes, given that it's an NBA Cup game and we know how the Bucks feel about the NBA Cup. So, Frank, given the circumstances of this game, meaning for the Bucks, there was no Giannis, there hasn't been Kevin Porter Jr. since the first game. There's no Taurean Prince, who's out indefinitely. On the other side, for the Hornets, there was no LaMelo Ball, no Brandon Miller, their top two scorers, no Josh Green, no Grant Williams, and the Hornets found a way to win this game. Would you consider this a bad loss for the Bucks? I want to start there.
Yeah, I mean, being uncompetitive against, a team that as much as the Bucks without Giannis are definitely a bottom 10 team in the league talent wise. I mean, they're, it's not like that team can take anything for granted, but certainly they're talented enough that, if you're well coached and you have good infrastructure and you play the right way, like you would think you could at least be competitive, against a Hornets team that is obviously, missing a bunch of dudes. I mean, the Hornets shot 12 of 40 from three. It's not like they had some lucky shooting night or some outlier kind of thing. So I think I would focus. I mean, I kind of came to this podcast, Camille, like figuring like we could focus on the things that they did poorly tonight or the things we saw tonight, which are indicative of what we've sort of seen all year. Because saying like if, again, they 12 and 30 from three. I mean, they shot 40% from three. So it's not like that was bad, but if they shot poorly,
on the threes, though, they should have got more of them up in this one. That was one thing I was looking for, like just the volume. Because even against the Warriors, another game where they didn't have Giannis, they still were able to shoot like 45, 46 threes in that particular game. So it's like, especially without Giannis, really try to get that volume up. But to your point about the actual converted field goal percentage, I agree with you 100% on that one.
Yeah. But, I mean, kind of look at them on the season, right? It's like you think back to what we sort of heard / hoped about this team, coming into the year, right? It's like, well, they're going to play fast. They're going to get up a lot of threes, et cetera, et cetera. They are basically shooting the same number of threes as they did last year, like 37 a game. I think they don't really, most nights they're worse in transition than the other team. Like transition is not like something that I would call, a weapon of this team. They're by cleaning the glass, they're second to last in the league in points added by transition, 29th.
Feels right.
So, they've basically gotten by with being a really good half court team. They've been slightly below average in terms of transition defense. So, and obviously like there've been a lot of nights where the defensive rebounding has been problematic. They're 23rd in defensive rebounding coming into this game. They gave up a stupid offensive rebound percentage tonight, which, again, really hurt them. So, those are problems when Giannis is healthy. Those are problems when he's not. Probably more of a problem when he's not healthy. And so, look, it's weird because it's like I've been enjoying the good vibes that have mostly been around the team. I was looking forward to seeing this version of the team. I think expectations obviously were lower coming into this year than they have been the last couple of years when, you kind of tried to stare at it long enough to convince yourself that maybe they could contend for, East supremacy or whatever. I think everybody had more realistic expectations coming into this year. I was probably lower than most people, especially most people that were like excited for the season. I said 43 wins the season, which is probably about as low as anybody who liked the Bucks were predicting. And here they are. They had a good start to the year. They're doing some things well, especially offensively. But I think their point differential right now was plus 0.6 after this game.
Yeah, because it wasn't that great heading into it. It was only 0.2 or something
or 2.2. Yeah, exactly. So they're a pretty, average team that's won a couple close games at this point. That's sort of where they are after 12 games. So you can say, they're 7 out of 12 wins. So they're on pace for 48 wins. But, if you look at the numbers a little bit, that's kind of a flattering way to think about it. So, and obviously missing Giannis tonight, you're 1-1 now without Giannis. 500 without Giannis, you'll take that for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully there aren't lots of games that you're going to have to play without Giannis. You still have basically haven't had Kevin Porter Jr. for other than 10 minutes to start the season. But the flip side of that is Ryan Rollins, who was again great offensively tonight, which was, I think seeing more examples that Ryan Rollins is not kind of just a flash in the pan or every 2 weeks he has a big game, but seeing him consistently impact the game is really important, in the kind of macro view of this team, even when they don't win. So that was a positive. And, I think they really need KPJ back. When you watch Cole Anthony, I thought was terrible tonight. He's never good defensively, but tonight, man, it's the shot selection, he was just out of rhythm and it was just not good. And so, it was a low possession game night. This was a very bad defensive performance, 119 defensive rating tonight. And I think, just the themes of problems that we've seen all throughout the year, I think are the things that, we should focus on. It's not the random stuff, but, allowing the other team to get offensive rebounds, 15 offensive rebounds, I think 41% offensive rebound rate, which is terrible to allow a team to do that. So even when the Hornets missed shots, they got reloads far too often. And fouling wasn't a huge problem in this game, but they had a huge free throw deficit, which again, that part is not surprising that you won't
without
get
Giannis, it was kind of
Giannis.
expected.
Yeah. Right. But, it's just they just even Rollins, I didn't think played that well defensively tonight. And, because he's has to be basically a first scoring option. He's going to probably have to compromise some there. It just feels like this, especially with the lack of size on the wing right now, Prince presumably done for the year, from how ominously the indefinite absence has been referenced. So yeah, I think this is just they're a pretty flawed team right now, and they need a trade or something to kind of get, to be more than sort of what we're seeing right now, which is a team that, to me, again, I didn't believe in this team ceiling coming into the year. I was kind of in the, hey, if they could get out of the first round, that'd be amazing. And that's kind of still where I'm at, but again, a game without Giannis, that's not the proxy for what this team is going to be, in the playoffs. But so far, again, is Doc Rivers concocting some magic potion to squeeze, a lot more from this group than, you would hope? Again, no, not really. Right. Doc's just sort of, they're fine. Giannis is amazing. And, I'll give Doc credit, right? He's, Rollins, he gave Rollins a chance last year. Now Rollins is stepping up big time. And, KPJ, you could say they're without their starting point guard, but I would say no, actually they have their starting point guard. It's just that they're missing a key depth piece in KPJ, who, as I like Justin's idea. Maybe KPJ should start, but with Rollins.
Yeah, and
Because
maybe
again,
Gary Trent hits the bench or
just,
something like that. Yeah.
again, Gary Trent just, kind of eerily similar to last year when the start of the year was just really rough.
Yeah, that's the thing with Gary too, where it's even some of the decision making at times in the games where it's like I'm just
Some of the
not feeling.
drives and
Yeah, like he had a fast break where Kuz was running with them, and even Kuz is even like throw it up, and Gary just said nah and went up for the layup with someone in front of him. He misses it, and he's on the ground.
he
It's
threw it
just
up.
like,
He threw it up, but
but
I
as
think it
as
went
a
off
shot
the
attempt.
glass. I think it went off the glass, got no rim. Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad. And I think your point about trying to focus on the things that have been a trend so far makes a lot more sense than being like, hey, in this game without Giannis, because how much can you take from a game without Giannis when this team is designed to have Giannis maximize everyone else around him? Like, even post game, you heard Doc say that he felt like AJ and Gary in particular really missed Giannis in this game. They felt his absence more than anything. And ultimately, I thought that some of the things that have doomed the Bucks in prior years under Doc, when the offense is not looking right, where it's too stagnant, the ball's not moving enough. You saw that tonight as well. They didn't get enough threes, like I said. They couldn't get to the free throw line without Giannis on the court. Offense was poor. You mentioned the shot selections too from Cole Anthony, who just was forcing up a lot of tough shots in this game and not really using his ability to touch paint to create for others as much as we've seen from him in the past before. But you did mention Ryan Rollins, who I thought was a bright spot to come out of this game. Myles Turner had a pretty good offensive game. You saw Bobby Portis getting some points too. So I do want to talk about some of the bright spots that came out of this game in Charlotte tonight after this. But first, a quick message from our friends over at Wayfair, because the holiday season, it's right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready for the festivities. Whether you need more seating for guests or cozy new linens or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. The best part, you don't even have to wait, because Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long. You can get up to 70% off of everything from sofa to spatulas. When I ordered from Wayfair earlier this year, I couldn't believe how fast everything shipped. Plus, when you browse through their website, it's really easy and intuitive. It's super easy to find pieces that actually fit your style. Nothing generic, just quality designs that can feel really personal. So don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head over to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. And we truly appreciate all of you for tuning in to Locked On Bucks, making it your first listen of the day. And a special thank you again for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And a special shout out to all the everydayers who tune in Monday through Friday. Frank, let's talk about some of the bright spots that here, because you highlighted Ryan Rollins, and I think that's an important one to highlight, because his growth so far over the season, stepping up in the absence of a Kevin Porter Jr., makes me even more excited for when Kevin does finally return to the lineup and you have two of these guards that you can count on. And Rollins has shown a lot more in his own shot creation bag, which was one of the arguments of like, hey, maybe Kevin got this a little bit better in the bag. You kind of need that from him. Rollins, you lean on for the defense. But to know that Rollins can give you that offensively, touching paint, finishing at the rim, and being able to shoot well from three as he has so far this season, like there's a lot positive to take out of that. I thought in this game too, Myles Turner offensively, a little bit more than defensively in this game, really showed up for the squad. I mean, him and Rollins combined for almost half of the Bucks points, more than half if you look at what the score was once Doc really checked all of the main rotation players out for garbage time with about 5 minutes or so left in the game. Bobby Portis finished 7 of 12 from the field in this one, but only one 3-point attempt from Bobby in this game. But those were your three main offensive pieces before garbage time sparked up. And then Pete Nance came in and got a quick 10 points. Mark Sears came in, had a quick 7 points of his own. Like the two-way guy said, hey,
we're claiming Pete Nance, by the way. This podcast is claiming Pete Nance. We've been pro
Stake
Pete
the
Nance
flag.
for a while. Yeah.
Stake the flag. Because yeah, I mean, hey, Pete showed a little something tonight. I mean, really quick again, but he flashed a little bit.
Yeah, I think with Rollins, I mean, when he's like taking off the dribble threes now, like, look, he's not Dame Lillard or something. He's not
Right.
taking, 30 footers or whatever. But if you sit back on him a little bit, like, he will not hesitate to pull up for threes, which again, last year he was 5 of 18. I forget what he is at now. He's more than doubled his makes, through 12 games relative to what he had in 56 games or whatever he played last year. He just looks really confident taking those shots. And yeah, I just expect them to go in. And he's shown, he can get to his mid-range a bit, which honestly, that was one of the first things I remember when he was in Summer League 2 years ago, when we hadn't really seen much of him yet. Just his like kind of comfort level, getting to kind of mid-range, and like it was kind of a good reminder that like, oh yeah, he was like, the best offensive player on his college team.
Yeah.
He was a high volume scorer, in at Toledo, so he's not uncomfortable doing that. So it's been, yeah, I mean, it's just generally obviously been very encouraging to see him get to a comfort level that he has, where he, is finishing right, finishing left, mixing in some of that mid-range stuff. Even had a little like floater push shot that I don't know that we've really seen that much. And then of course, the 3-point shot and being able to not just be a spot up 3-point shooter, which is what he was a year ago, but actually a guy that, can pull up and get to 3-point shots with some volume. I think he was 4 for 6 tonight.
Not to cut you off, even a little bit more playmaking in his game than I expected from Rollins so far. Like 6 assists tonight. But again, ball movement wasn't at a premium tonight. But that's another area of Rollins' game offensively where I've been like, all right, you're showing me something here.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's like the big, honestly, like Rollins' development may be the single most important thing in the grand scheme of, this team trying to find a higher ceiling that, so far I've been skeptical of. And even going so far as to say, like, next summer when you have to try to convince Giannis that it's worth, sticking around again. I think, Rollins just having this potential other level he can get to is a big deal. And I mean, Ryan's still only 22 years old last time I checked. So it is exciting kind of seeing what he's doing and the confidence with which he's playing, and the fact that you've got him for, at least the next 2 years before his player option hits, which at this point, I think we maybe can lock in that he's not going to take that player option. So we might as well just start referring to that as a, 2-year, $8 million deal rather than a 3-year, $12 million deal. But yeah, Rollins was very good. And, Turner, encouraging that he got off to the fast start. I mean, he was looking to score. And I think he's started to show that. I mean, when Giannis was the first game he missed, he scored 17, which was kind of his like first real offensive impact game, was that Warriors game. And he's had, I think, 2 20-point games now since then, including this one. So, I mean, again, we didn't think Myles was going to average 9 points a game all year. So I think he's too good, too talented, too skilled of a shooter to not, figure out how to get to some spots. And I think the staggering with Giannis has helped give him a little bit more room and artistic license to have to be a scorer. So, again, like obviously it didn't pay off in terms of, any sort of competitiveness win-loss tonight, but, it's important for him to do that. I mean, they need, they're going to need Giannis, Rollins, and Myles Turner to be very, very good. Or they're going to need those two guys to be really, really good the rest of the way, because those are your other 2 best players right now. And I mean, things can change, right? Like if KPJ comes back and gets on a heater right away, like maybe he can push Rollins if Rollins kind of comes back down to earth. But, give those guys credit tonight, and certainly give Rollins credit for the season he's putting together as a whole. Especially if you take out the first game of the season when he was coming off the bench and scored 9 points, he's been producing at a really high level for a while now. And, wasn't obviously enough tonight, but if they were getting, other guys producing at closer to their potentials the way Rollins is, then I think obviously you'd feel better about this team. And, certainly my mind immediately thinks of Gary Trent, who we mentioned earlier. It's just, not consistent enough with GT, and especially on a night like this when you don't have Giannis and you need other guys to kind of get to spots, create shots, and I think with Gary, it's just especially going off the dribble, trying to get to the paint. It's just always an adventure with him. And tonight it was adventurous in not particularly good ways, but certainly no lack of blame to go around. And I think honestly, my biggest concern with this Bucks team is that it seems like they're good enough offensively, and they know they're good enough offensively that they're okay with not being great defensively. Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of the team from 2 years ago, which was the Griff/Doc interim year,
first year,
where that team had more talent, right? Because you had Dame, you had Chris, obviously you had a younger Brooke as well. Like, that team was more talented than this one. I think it was older, certainly, as well. And I don't know that it fit together as well. Malik Beasley is your wing stopper with that team.
Ooh,
but it just, that team, like, early on in the season, just like, yeah, they're just not going to play defense because they know that they can just kind of outscore teams. And that was pretty much their identity, right? They were in the bottom 10, I think, in defense. They were top 10 in offense. And, again, like, if you're not going to compete at a really high level defensively, if you're going to be kind of like an average team from a competitive standpoint, that puts a ceiling on you. And I think that's where this team is currently they just don't defend. And it really comes down to me, like, ending possessions, which, we've talked about, but the two obvious things being defensive rebounding and fouls. It just feels like, how many possessions do they defend pretty well for 20 seconds or whatever it is, and then they give up a second chance, or they just foul because their wings are small and can't.
And that's all they could
compete.
do in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it is tough, but it's one of those things too. You take a loss like this one in Charlotte against the Hornets. You have Pat Connaughton coming off the bench and cooking up a little bit and all that good stuff, but you have another opportunity added on Friday. So what needs to change for the Bucks to get a win the next time they play the Hornets? Luckily, it's the very next game. So we'll discuss right after this. But first, a message from our friends over at Built, because nobody likes paying rent. But if you got to, you might as well get something in return for it. And that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. So when you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and so much more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. And a really cool thing about Built is that it makes your rent finally work for you. You're earning points every single month on something that you already have to pay. So turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use that link so they know that we sent you. Also, a word from our friends over at FanDuel, because the NBA is back in the swing of things, and there is no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push, or maybe your team's not making a late push and you just need something to cheer for. FanDuel might have something there for you to root for. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. And when that first $5 bet wins, you get that bonus bet. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Frank, as mentioned, the Bucks have the Hornets again on Friday. This time, Friday, it's going to be at home in Milwaukee. It will be an NBA Cup game, and it seems like it could be safe to assume to at least a certain degree that Giannis should be available. It doesn't seem like his knee injury is something that is super long-term concern in the sense of him missing a lot of games. Doc made mention of the fact that, during shoot around, he was actually trying to encourage Giannis not to play tonight. Like, hey, get that rest. It's a long season. There's a lot in front of you. And if you rest, this game, you get quite a few days off in between games here. So when the Hornets make their way to Milwaukee on Friday, and you can assume Giannis is playing, you can assume not, whatever way you want to take it, Frank. But what do you need to see differently from the Bucks in this game on Friday?
Well,
Giannis playing is a big one.
Yeah, you already stole the obvious one. Like, well, just you need Giannis and play better, hit the play better button.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like LaMelo's probably not back for that game. Like, it doesn't sound like the Hornets are going to have like the cavalry back for that game. So, it becomes a game like I don't really like to use the word must win, in November, because it's not a must win. Like maybe when you're like 2-8, like they were a year ago, it can feel like a must win because you're kind of spiraling.
Giannis keeps saying these good teams don't lose 2 in a row, Frank. It's a must win in the Giannis book.
Yeah. So, I think obviously you need to figure out some way to win a game. And I think figuring out how to, Doc talked about side to side ball movement. That is obviously really critical for any team that is dependent on 3-point shooting in the way that the Bucks are. Mm-hmm. So I would certainly look to see what they do there. Like, do we see a kind of different level of activity? As far as like getting up and down the floor faster, as I mentioned, like Bucks haven't done that all year. So I don't think it's necessarily something that you can expect, like, oh, now they're going to be, good in transition. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's really what the identity of this team is kind of shaping up to be, unless, Giannis just decides to go sort of coast to coast, or, sometimes they get coups sort of leaking out and he's able to, attack in transition a little bit, or, GT will take kind of those early clock threes. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I think the other thing, and Bucks Breakdown mentioned on Twitter tonight, and there was a little discussion around like how they're using Turner defensively, and whether, Myles is playing more aggressively than he should. We expected that he would come up to the level of the screen more than certainly Brook did. But look, he doesn't need to do that against every opponent, right? Like, you do that when you're really worried about the other team being able to pull up from 3, or, feeling like you really need to pressure the ball more. So it's an interesting kind of question. Like, are the Bucks, making the right trade-offs there in terms of the, typical zone or kind of zone drop defense that we've seen? We have seen a lot of their zone. It's usually a bad sign if we're seeing a zone, because it means they're losing generally. It's not something they do when they're, winning by 15 points. And I don't know that it's, I'd be curious, it's hard to get numbers on zone defenses unless you, have access to certain data sets, but it does not feel like it has been like a, big unlock for them so far this year. That has been like a hack that they can use consistently. I'll always remember that Minnesota Timberwolves comeback where the Wolves just completely fell apart when the Bucks went to zone, but we'll see. So yeah, I think it's honestly just a play better at home type of thing. And, if you lose that game, then you're not in a very good place, because you got to play the Lakers on Saturday. And
then the Cavs on Monday, I believe it is too.
Yeah. So, look, if they had, they could have easily lost in Dallas. And if they lose in Dallas, do they lose tonight? I don't know. Right. Like you can kind of debate that, but if you have a couple things bounce not your way on Monday, then you could have easily be 6-6 right now, and then suddenly nobody's feeling so great. Likewise, if you show up the way you're supposed to, you could have been 8-4 tonight. So it's still early in this stuff of the season. It's like, again, Camille, it's our favorite phrase, right? The season is long.
Yep.
In a good way, in a bad way, in just a cosmic way. It is a long season, and obviously that's part of the thesis of holding Giannis out of a game like tonight, just not wanting to kind of overheat him early in the season. So we'll see. That's why we do a daily podcast, because the
That's
season is
exactly
long and sometimes super exciting things happen, sometimes not so exciting things happen, and
yeah.
we're here regardless, Camille. I feel like I ducked a couple losses recently, so I had to put up a kind of show up and show out for you here tonight to show
Man.
I'm not just abandoning you when times get tough.
And I appreciate it because let me tell you something, Frank. Your girl's been tired doing these podcasts alone. It's a lot. It's a whole different feeling when you got no one else to bounce the ideas off of here. But no, I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, Giannis being back, of course, is the big button to push. I think it is a play better button, and playing better. Like, expectations when Giannis doesn't play are different. But after seeing what they did against the Warriors without Giannis, it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's see what else y'all can do here now against this Hornets team. I think understanding the scouting report is a big one, to your point about Myles Turner playing up to the level. But even having someone out there like Moussa Diabate, where it's like, you know what he's here to do. So make sure that you have the scouting report right. You got bodies on him. You're making sure that you got him figured out. So the scouting report, ball movement on offense, getting up more threes, just being more sound because, yeah, the shooting in this game wasn't great for either team really down the stretch here. So they get another shot at it on Friday for an NBA Cup game, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow for more Locked On Bucks. We'll be back after the NBA Cup game, whether that's Friday night or Saturday morning is to be seen. But we will be here for post-game shows for that Hornets game as well. So thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen. For that second listen, go on ahead and check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball with Josh Lloyd. It's the #1 fantasy basketball podcast for a reason. He got all the tips to help you win your league. So go ahead and check that out wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. We truly do appreciate you for tuning in to Locked On Bucks. So for Frank and myself, we'll catch you later.